got a job at my first company that was a publishing company where I was designing magazine to magazine, about 20 magazines for my creative director, who is such a good soul. I still talk to him. He hired me in my first job and we were under a lot of pressure, but it threw me in the deep end. And then I remember sitting at my desk one day after working there for about 2 years, and he taught me really how to be a perfectionist. So in terms of layout and understanding how a magazine works. And that was before all the internet stuff and the social media. So magazines were big.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that.
Justine, you're like a brander, a $1 million brander. You're a thought leader. You are a brand strategist. You're all kinds of things, so tell me a little bit about, like, how did you get involved in this world?
Sure. So I think I've always been an entrepreneur from a young age. I actually immigrated from South Africa when I was about 11 and a half years old. So what happened was my family, I remember when the old Blockbuster stores were happening and it was the thing to do on a Saturday night. So we went to go get a movie, my dad, my brother, and myself. My mom was in the house alone, and what happened was we drove back into a shootout, and there were 9 men with machine guns who shot the power lines, and my mom had to hide in the bathtub to prevent herself. We didn't know if she was alive or dead. We were in the driveway and there was just gunshots going backwards and forwards. And then basically the next day, my parents were like, we're out of here. So we packed up our whole life into a 40-foot container and immigrated to Australia. And I know it's quite similar to your journey, Daniel. You come from a background where you don't have a choice. You just got to make it. And from a young age, I always had jobs. I've been working since literally 12 years old. And while normal kids were going to school 5 days a week and having their beautiful weekends, and having their privileges of playing sport and doing different things, I was working because I just wanted to contribute, and I was quite mature, I think, for a 12-year-old, but it was always my thing. Like I had this insatiable drive because nothing was actually handed to me on a silver platter. And I think the thing that people don't see is what you have now. It's like what goes on when the lights are off and when no one's watching. And that's what contributes to your success in life in general. It's about discipline. And I know you're big on this, but what happened was I worked in many different jobs, and I'm going to call them almost sales roles, because I think every job that I had was always being, I'm going to call it front and center, where I was always selling something. So whether it be ice cream or coffee or donuts, and then eventually getting into retail. And I was always extremely artistic, and I wanted to get into the world of basically branding, I'm going to call it. So I got a job at my first company that was a publishing company where I was designing magazine to magazine, about 20 magazines for my creative director, who is such a good soul. I still talk to him. He hired me in my first job, and we were under a lot of pressure, but it threw me in the deep end. And then I remember sitting at my desk one day after working there for about 2 years, and he taught me really how to be a perfectionist. So in terms of layout and understanding how a magazine works. And that was before all the internet stuff and the social media. So magazines were big.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember sitting at my desk and I was like, do I really want to spend my life laying out other people's copy for articles? Like, I'm learning a lot because it's great, because I was always reading, right? Whether it would be sports magazines or wine sommelier magazines, or I was reading while I was designing, but I wanted to make the transition into advertising. And that was when it was very glamorous. I mean, now everyone has an advertising agency, but there were the big firms like Ogilvy and Saatchi, and there was a job going for a digital designer. That was when flash banners were around. So for the millennials listening to this, I mean, there was a lot of work that was involved in flash banners. Now you just basically film on your phone, or you do these cute little ads. Back then, there was a whole process behind designing an ad for a company, and it was all about the thought process and the artistic ability. But I actually campaigned for my first job. And I got in touch with the creative director of a firm called 𝐄𝐍𝐉𝐻𝐾, and I basically sent him a million things. So I campaigned and I sent him like little running shoes, and I said, I know I need to learn to walk before I run, but I'm going to be your best runner. And I did so many of these little gimmicks that eventually he called me and he was like, Justine, you got the job. Just please stop contacting me. Stop sending me stuff. So he was like,
so you're saying that you're persistent. Is that what you're saying?
very, and I think it's something, I mean, it has changed a little bit. It's very psychological. It's very psychological now in business, the way people do business, which is quite interesting. I think the dynamic had changed. But back then, I mean, I'm only 24 now for anyone listening, but back then it was a thing where you had to persevere because everyone wanted the same job. I mean, working for those firms, there were about 50 applicants wanting the same job. I know New York mentality is the same. You got to, like, if you're not working hard, there's someone else working hard. And I believe that's something that really taught me work ethic for life. So it was the immigrant mentality coupled with the persistence. And I worked there for many years. And then I started my own business, $1 Million Branders. A couple of years later, there was a gap in the market for boutique agencies. So it's not like now where everyone is a marketer, but had a bit of an experience, and then it just transitioned me into freelancing. So I work for a lot of companies. There's a television channel in Australia called Network 10, work for them, Fairfax Digital. There's all different companies. I was also in the corporate sector doing work with PwC.
And what side, I mean, what type of stuff, I mean, specifically, what type of stuff would you be doing day to day for these companies?
So my background is publishing, as I said. I've touched in all realms, but user experience, I'm sure people listening to this, so it's the psychology behind how a website works. So it's why people click in a certain place, what gets them to read certain things. I've done work with the Australian Navy, don't tell anyone, but it's basically very psychological. So it's how you look at something, how you approach certain things that you design, and why they put on a website and a page. I mean, I've literally designed projects where we've put heat maps on pages. So there's certain tools that you can actually test where the eye is looking first, what people are spending the most time on. So not just that, back like rewind, I did something called award school in Australia. So it's basically like Miami ad school. It teaches you how to think very differently. So you know those ads, the Super Bowl ads, for instance, great example. I'm obsessed with them. I love watching them. It doesn't matter how simple they are, they're about evoking emotion. So it's those ads that you see on TV that make you think, wow, this is funny, or it makes you cry or makes you laugh, kind of like a mini movie. And that's what I think is missing from today's time. So that's the old school advertising that I was taught to do, like the Mad Men days. Whoever's watched Mad Men, yeah. I know you like those.
I mean, are you like fascinated with like politics and things like that, like what they're doing politically
Totally.
Do you follow American politics?
I love America because I think America and Americans, the ones that I know anyway, are real go-getters.
Right.
I don't know what it is, like they've just got fire, insatiable drive. And I think Americans really know advertising.
So is it kind of strange to you in a way how they kind of took this Kamala Harris 3 years of doing nothing, and then all of a sudden she's like this brilliant, amazing, incredible lady? Is it fascinating or what?
It's not fascinating because it's all just psychology to me. So I'm watching that going like, this is just like, even Donald Trump, I mean, make America great again. Like I laugh with my friends. I'm like, make America great again, again. Like that should have been his tagline. But it's some of the ads are just crazy that they've got running now. Like it's just, it shows the power of branding. And I think people really underestimate good branding. Like I did a post yesterday, great branding is about bringing people to you. It's about getting attention. So I haven't just designed ads in my career and how people think. It's also how it looks online. Do you look professional? It's like you wrote a book, right? So I love the name, by the way, but when people look at it, it's like, what emotion is it evoking? And then it's coupled with the copywriting. So it's a look, the feel, and then literally the feeling, like what emotion does it evoke in you? And this stems to any piece of content you do. So it's video content, it's your personal brand, it's how you show up. I always say to my team, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So, I mean, this is something that was instilled in me when I was working for those ad agencies. I used to come to work and be like, this is my business. And I would pretend that it was my firm, because everything that I put my name to, whether it's my company, whether it's my personal brand, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a podcast, you will attract the quality that you portray in everything that you do in life.
If you like this video and you want to watch another one, click right here.